Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Just going to give a moment for folks to join our session, and we'll get started with unlocking the power of high-impact tutoring in California. Seeing our participants climb, so I'm just going to give it a few moments till that number stabilizes a minute. I know we have an ambitious agenda, so I'm going to kick us off. Hi, everyone. My name is Rigel Massaro. I'm Deputy Legal Counsel and Deputy Policy Director at the State Board of California. And I'm really thrilled to welcome you all to this webinar on unlocking the power of high-impact tutoring in California. This is co-sponsored with, in addition to the State Board, the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence, the California Department of Education's Expanded Learning Division, and our wonderful partners at Results for America, the National Student Support Accelerator, and the Center for Outcomes-Based Contracting. Thank you so much to our partners, and special thank you to our guest LEAs that will be sharing their experiences with us today. Let's go to the next slide. We have three goals. We want to learn, raise awareness about the key elements of evidence-based high-impact tutoring. We want to spotlight some of our bright spots here in California on promising high-impact programs, and share opportunities for LEs in California to fund, design, and implement impactful tutoring programs. I just wanted to say, let's see, go to the next slide, please. That it was in fall 2020 when we had the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, or JPAL, at MIT, contact the governor's office to share their meta-analysis of 96 randomized evaluations of tutoring programs. And their findings were really exciting at a time when we knew students were very impacted by pandemic learning loss and had a real need for learning acceleration, in addition to the systemic inequities that many of us are so aware of that impact our highest needs students here in California and across the country. Over the years, we at the State Board, CDE's Expanded Learning Division, and CCEE have shared these findings with educational leaders, and the state has funded learning acceleration grants, learning recovery block grants, and the incredible expansion of expanded learning. In all of these programs, tutoring has been a focus and an allowable use of funds. So we're thrilled today to share an opportunity for up to 40 LEAs to work with our partners at Results for America and the National Student Support Accelerator to plan and implement high-impact tutoring, and our outcomes-based contracting partners to follow up with LEAs interested in contracting with external providers. Before we get there, I just want to acknowledge my CDE and CCEE colleagues, Stacy Wadeen, CCEE's Assistant Director of Teaching, Leading, and Learning, and the Administrator of the Learning Acceleration System Grant, and our CDE Expanded Learning Division colleagues, Education Programs Consultant Daniela Stoli and Director Michael Funk. Michael and I have been in contact about tutoring for years. He knows the impact personally and professionally. He has run tutoring programs before his time here at CDE. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Michael.
Thanks for the great introduction, Rigel, and welcome everyone to this discussion for the next hour. I'm Michael Funk, the Director of the Expanded Learning Division, as Rigel stated, and I just needed to share that for my whole career in expanded learning, we've always seen expanded learning not as a program, but as a place and a time and as a platform on which to build supports for kids, and the ability to integrate with this project with the intentionality of how do we build learning experiences for kids that can really support them in growing to be the best version of themselves is very exciting to me. And we are ready to jump in and also to partner with other initiatives within CDE. So I'm very happy and pleased today to announce our featured speaker for today. To start off the webinar, Dr. Linda Darling Hammond is the Charles E. Dukeman, Professor of Education Emeritus at Stanford University and the founding president of the Learning Policy Institute, created to provide high-quality research for policies that enable equitable and empowering education for each and every child. At Stanford, she founded the Stanford Center for Opportunity Policy and Education and served as a faculty sponsor for the Stanford Teacher Education Program, which she helped redesign. I read that, Linda, but I just want to tell you, you've been an inspiration to me for many years. And no, what really stands out to me is when you were the co-chair of the Aspen Institute National Commission on Social, Emotional, and Academic Development. I don't know if we've ever talked about it, but I took that paper and said, this aligns exactly with what we believe in social emotional learning and what we believe high quality expanded learning and indeed high quality education should look like. So thank you for your work. You're president of the State Board of Education. Everyone knows you, and we're so happy to have you. Please speak to us.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was very sweet. And I have been a fan of the work that you've been doing for a long time also. So appreciate it very much. I want to just reinforce why we're here, that high impact tutoring is, as we know, one of the most effective tools that we have to accelerate learning, especially for students who are the furthest behind. It has been shown by decades of research to increase student achievement sharply when done well, to build student confidence, and then that builds their engagement and their motivation, reduces absenteeism. We might want to start with what is high impact tutoring and why is it so successful? It's not what we've often seen in tutoring, where somebody who's a volunteer sort of sits with a student, after school, and with a changeable set of people. It is continuity of time, multiple periods of time over the week, continuity of teacher, that strong relationship is part of the effect, if you will. The training for the tutor, whether it's a paraprofessional or a teacher or a volunteer, that is very specific to how you work with students to build their confidence and competence, starting from the point where they are in need of the next step. It really is diagnostic. It is not marching through the grade level standards in the sort of factory model standardized way. It really favors looking at progressions of learning, starting where the child is and what they're ready to learn, and it therefore breaks the cycle of failure and produces success experiences for the student. And studies show that when you allow teachers to meet the child where they are, the gains are much steeper and much faster. This, of course, requires new options in the classroom and beyond the classroom. So it requires administrators to be creative in redesigning time and organizing people, as well as teachers to be creative about the way they organize their classroom if some of that tutoring is happening within the classroom, whether it's a second adult who are trained to work with individuals or small groups at their point of learning need, whether it is new school schedules, lab courses, noontime opportunities, resource room, after school time. All of those things require us to think differently about how we do school. And here in California, we are seeing bright spots. You'll hear from 3 districts today that are leading the way with strong results. As Rigel already noted, we've made promising investments like the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, the Learning Acceleration System Grant, the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, all of which are resources available to support this kind of work in schools. Now, we know that implementation across the state has been uneven, in part because we haven't invested enough in building awareness and connecting districts to funding and supporting local capacity and helping them find the training and the support systems that they need. So we're very excited to launch a new partnership with 3 national leaders in evidence-based high-impact tutoring, Results for America, the National Student Support Accelerator, and the Center for Outcomes-Based Contracting, which is at the Southern Education Foundation. Together, these partners are offering a free 8 to 10 week virtual learning opportunity this fall for up to 40 LEAs to design and implement effective high-impact tutoring programs, followed by a year-long cohort for up to 10 districts focused on using outcomes-based tutoring contracts to drive mutual accountability between providers and districts and to deliver measurable results for students. So you'll hear more today and have a chance to express interest in applying for the fall learning opportunity. I appreciate all of you who are here, for all you do for your students, for helping us turn tutoring from a moment to a movement in California. And I'm now going to turn things back to Michael.
Thank you so much, Linda. I just want to, you said so many great things, but I just want to point out something that really resonated with me. When you used the phrase, people or adults will meet the student at their point of learning need. And in my own journey as both a parent and as an educator, the challenge and impact of meeting kids where they're at instead of expecting them to meet us where our system's at is a game changer. And it is so important for high quality tutoring. So thank you for kicking us off, Dr. Hammond. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Kathy Bendheim, one of our core organizational partners. Kathy's been great to work with. You need to know she's a good human as well as really smart. And she's the director of strategic advising for the National Student Support Accelerator at Stanford University. Good to see you, Kathy, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Michael. As Michael mentioned, I'm Kathy Bendheim from the National Student Support Accelerator, and we're a program at Stanford University. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to join this incredible group of California leaders to share this opportunity to learn more about how to bring the most effective research intervention to more California students, high impact tutoring. I'd really like to start by first understanding just a bit more about who's joining us today. Can you launch the poll? And we can just, if you wouldn't mind answering just these two very short questions so we can get a sense of who's joining us today. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Well, we will keep moving. Thank you for using the poll. I don't see the results populating on the screen, but I'm going to assume we've got a variety of folks here who are joining us from different stages of the development of their tutoring program. So next slide, please. Just to share a little bit about us, our mission at the National Student Support Accelerator is to accelerate access to high-impact tutoring for students in need. And we do this not by operating programs ourselves, but by conducting research and using that research to develop tools and strategic advising to support education leaders and practitioners like yourself to implement and scale tutoring programs, and by engaging stakeholders to build awareness and demand. Next slide, please. But why high impact tutoring? Well, Dr. Darling Hammond shared already about the research. So can you move to the next slide, please? And rarely in research do we have so much evidence pointing to the promise of a specific approach, high impact tutoring in this case. But this chart shows the average effect size translated into months of learning from 7 different meta-analyses that together include over 150 randomized control trials, which are systematic studies of program effects that do a great job isolating the true effect of the program on student learning. And as you can see, these studies show positive effects of tutoring across grade levels and across subject areas, with effects in most cases ranging from half a year to more than a year of learning. So this type of tutoring is highly effective. Next slide, please. And not only has this tutoring been been shown to be effective, but studies have shown that this type of tutoring is more effective than other researched interventions. And of course, its effectiveness in many ways is not surprising. As Michael and Dr. Darling Hammond both mentioned, it can target the specific needs of each student. And tutoring from a consistent tutor can help develop the close adult-student relationships, which can improve students' engagement in school and their overall well-being. Next slide, please. However, as we know, people define tutoring in many, many different ways, and not all of these approaches are effective. In fact, during the No Child Left Behind era, parents whose children were in schools failing to meet adequate yearly progress for 2 years or more were able to sign their children up for tutoring outside of school. And that sounds like a great idea, but the research showed that it did not have high uptake. In fact, less than a quarter of the eligible students participated, and even for those students, few showed any positive impact. But these programs varied widely and there were few requirements. However, when tutoring did have minimum dosage requirements and more structured tutoring sessions, along with stronger coordination with schools, in those cases, there were positive outcomes. So while not all tutoring is effective, evidence does point to several critical elements for effective tutoring. So what is high impact tutoring? Next slide, please. So at the National Student Support Accelerator, we took all of the elements of programs that have shown positive effects in research and created this framework for high impact tutoring. And in particular, research points to 7 critical elements. The first 3 are the foundational elements of equity, safety, and cohesion. You can see those in the circle along the outside of the framework. And they support 4 model-specific elements related to the tutor, instruction, learning integration, and data use. Now I'm just going to spend a bit more time on each one of those. Next slide, please. In terms of the foundational elements, first, the program must be grounded in equity, and this means that ensuring students who need it the most have access. Second, the program must ensure student safety, and this means designing a tutoring program in which the students and their information are safe and protected. And a final foundational element is cohesion. Effective programs have strong leaders who make sure all of the elements and internal systems of the program work together cohesively towards the program goals. So equity, safety, cohesion are foundational. Next slide, please. And these foundational elements support 4 specific model elements, the first of which is the tutor. Effective programs place a high priority on developing a strong tutor-student relationship, which requires having a consistent tutor who not only has command of the content knowledge, but just as importantly, is skilled at engaging students and developing positive relationships. And the good news is that a wide range of people can be effective tutors. Not so surprisingly, certified teachers are highly effective, but paraprofessionals, college students, community members, and others can also be effective tutors with the right training and ongoing support. Next slide, please. The next model-specific element is instruction. High-impact tutoring requires special attention to both the amount and to the instructional materials used. Evidence shows that to be high impact, students should meet with their tutors several times per week, as Dr. Darling Hammond already mentioned, in small groups for at least a semester, and better yet, a full school year. The quality of the instructional materials is, of course, also important. Tutors need high quality instructional materials that align with standards and with the school's materials. Next slide, please. In terms of learning integration, programs that are embedded in the school day or are directly before or after school are particularly effective. And we know this can be tricky as it's important not to replace core instruction. And this is not because the students are magically learning more during the hours of the school day, but in school programs, generally students have higher attendance. So the student's instructional experience is also more cohesive, and the program is able to reach the students who need tutoring the most. So providing tutoring directly before or after school can be effective if you can ensure student attendance and cohesion with the other aspects of the student's learning experience. Next slide, please. And the final model-specific element of high-impact tutoring is data use. High impact programs use data to understand the students' learning needs and to track their progress. And this data can come from already in place assessments or the tutoring program's own assessments. But regardless of the source of the data, what's important is that the data are used to tailor the instruction for the students. That's one of the key benefits of tutoring, that it can address each student's specific needs. And tutors need to use data to know these needs. Next slide, please. So that's the why behind high impact tutoring. And the good news is that you have a unique opportunity now. There's clear research that points to the effectiveness of tutoring, a better understanding now of how to design programs to be effective. There are examples of successful high impact tutoring programs across a wide range of districts. In fact, the most recent School Pulse panel indicates that almost 40% of schools across the country offer high impact tutoring. And we have strong examples in large districts such as New York City public schools, smaller, more rural districts such as Seymour Public Schools in Seymour, Connecticut, and of course, the successful examples that are here today to share more about their work in California. And now you'll have the opportunity to join a California-specific learning opportunity to learn how to design, implement, and scale tutoring in your own context. So now I'm excited to hand it over to Sarah Kerr to facilitate an incredible group of tutoring leaders from 3 different districts. Sarah is the Vice President of Education Policy Implementation for Results for America and an amazing partner in this work. Sarah, take it away.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And it is a real pleasure to be here this afternoon with this amazing group of collaborators in California, as well as with all of you all across the state and perhaps even outside the state. I am even more grateful to be joined and to have the privilege of facilitating the next part of our webinar today, in which we are going to be joined by 3 amazing district leaders right here in California who are on the leading edge of implementing effective high-impact tutoring programs for their students. And so in the next 20 minutes or so, we are going to hear from them. I'm going to briefly introduce all 3 of them, and then Jennifer will start off with you to hear a little bit more about the high impact tutoring program that you are running. So before we jump to you, let me do very brief introductions. Our 3 esteemed district leaders are first Jennifer Cisneros, who is the Interim Executive Director for Finance and Operations in Santa Ana Unified. We are also joined by Preeti Johari, who's the Executive Director of Learning and Innovation in Milpitas Unified. And finally, Alicia Sanborn, Director of Early Literacy and Assessment in Washington Unified. Welcome to all 3 of you. We are really excited to have you here with us today. We have asked each of you to present a brief 4 to 5 minute snapshot of your district's high impact tutoring program. And following those snapshots, I'll ask a few follow-up questions of each of you, all designed to give everyone who joined here today a real sense of what is happening already as it relates to high impact tutoring in California, and an opportunity to learn as they think about what they might launch in the future. So welcome, Jennifer. I will start with you and hand things over. And so I think if we can go to the next slide, you should be all set to go.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me here. I do want to share that just prior to January 6th of this year, I was the Director of Expanded Learning Programs here in Santa Ana Unified for the past 10 years, and I've been in expanded learning for about 25 years. So just a little context in terms of, why a finance and operations person is here in the space. A little bit about Santa Ana Unified. We have about 37,000 students in our district. 96% are Hispanic and Latino, 84% free and reduced lunch, 41% English learners. About 16% of our students are experiencing homelessness. 16% of our students are with disabilities, and about 1% are foster youth. So just to give you a little bit of context around our demographics and the students that we're serving, we are at about 59 schools, including programs across our district. And, you know, it's really interesting, our journey into the HIT implementation, the high impact tutoring. And right when I got here in Santa Ana, about 10 years ago, there was some some funding that was offered to us in order to run some tutoring in the after school program. And we didn't really know where it was going to go. And it's funny to hear Kathy talk about the data, because we kind of experienced some of that anecdotally with a vendor and releasing this opportunity to implement math tutoring. We were kind of blown away by the results that we saw in our implementation. And we were, unfortunately, that money went away, and we were continuously trying to find ways to sustain and bring the tutoring back because it was so impactful. And so we were later approached to kind of talk about this outcomes-based contracting opportunity, which I know Brittany is going to share a little bit more about that in this presentation. But we were excited because the focus was on tutoring. And so we were like, here's an opportunity for us to bring tutoring back. We were looking at bringing it into the expanded learning space, but also this opportunity to shift our district's mindset around this idea and this concept of outcomes-based contracting, and really being able to maximize our resources. So when we had very limited resources to offer tutoring, now we had this opportunity to really maximize our resources, and really knowing that, you know, we were approaching a funding cliff with ESSER money going away. That was something that we were mindful of as a district. Going into COVID, we were facing a deficit in our district. And then COVID kind of put a pause on that. And all this funding got flooded into our system, but we knew we were going to have to address, it was going to have to be addressed eventually. And so we were fortunate to have an opportunity to be part of an OBC cohort, bring tutoring back. We were excited to see what this could mean for our students, especially post-COVID, knowing that the needs were so great, where we were looking at our testing, our scores. And then this wonderful thing happened in the state of California, where ELOP funding was released. You know, in addition to all this ESSER money, we also had an opportunity with ELOP to really expand our services and reach. So what went from a really small, high impact tutoring opportunity became a very large. I mean, we are looking to serve annually 3,000 kids, and we're not quite there yet, but we're building and growing to that capacity. We have resources dedicated to be able to support this work, all through ELOP funds. So you can see here on the slide, it shares a little bit about what our high impact tutoring looks like. We do partner with 2 external vendors. We went through an RFP process and the contracting process to bring them in. And we're focusing really on literacy. We have a huge need here in terms of closing our literacy gaps. And the reasons why we picked 3rd through 5th grade is when we were working with our teaching and learning team and asking, like, they're part of our outcomes-based contracting team and the work that we've done around high impact tutoring to guide us. We are not the experts in expanded learning. We needed to bring in the folks that really can help guide and give direction, as well as our research and eval. And so the 3rd through 5th graders, at the time of COVID and when our schools were closed, these were the students that were really focusing on foundational literacy skills virtually. And so there were some huge gaps when we did return to school, and that we've noticed over time. And so that was a really intentional focus for us. We do 36 small group tutoring sessions 3 times a week. And right now we have data for our cohort 1 students who were at the beginning of the year. And now cohort 2 is pending because we're in the middle of our cohort 2 tutoring sessions now. And we are leveraging ELOP funding in order to provide this opportunity to students. Right now we're serving 600 students per cohort. Our goal is to get to 1,800 students per cohort, 1,500 students per cohort, 3,000 a year. If you want to go to the next slide, I can share a little bit about our outcomes. So we are really excited. Our first year of implementation was very much a learning year. We had a pilot year, and there was a lot that we had to grow through. But here you can see 82% of our students we had 82% average student attendance, 88 tutor student match, which is really important. One of the things that is critical is making sure that students have the same tutor throughout the process. And so this was something that we focused on. We've serviced about 605 students, 71% of our students. So something to note, we have 3 different outcomes that we pay vendors when students meet their outcome goals. And so 71% of our students that were served in that first cohort met at least one of their outcome goals. From growth, we focus on growth and proficiency. And 58% of contingent money funding was paid out, meaning students, 58% were paid on contingent payments. I know Brittany's going to talk a little bit about base payment, contingent payments, if that's a term that maybe not is completely familiar to you. It's really tied to outcomes-based contracting. And so we're really excited about the continued growth. I will say doing it in expanded learning space, I know some of the research says doing it during the school day is really the best. They've seen high impact there. We are seeing impact in expanded learning. We really do need to focus on student attendance and building that awareness, not just with expanded learning staff, but with the school site. And I know Lupita will share a little bit about some of that challenge and how we've worked to overcome that.
Jennifer, thanks so much for giving us that quick snapshot and a real sense of your journey with high impact tutoring in Santa Ana. We're going to go Preeti to you next. Would love to invite you to do the same. Give us a snapshot, help us understand the high impact tutoring story briefly in Milpitas, to give us a sense again of what's possible in a different kind of district. So welcome, Preeti, and please jump in.
Yeah, great. Thanks. So I'm Preeti Johari from Milpitas Unified. And Milpitas is suburban urban in the Bay Area, about 10,000 students. And we have implemented high impact tutoring for our elementary students, and really just have focused on the elements that were highlighted earlier in this presentation to really think about how can our system embed this in the school day? How do we use the tutoring, use that data to drive the instructional process, have a consistent tutor, and use high quality materials. So in our process of development, we kept those elements at the forefront. And we really wanted to think kind of similarly, I think, to Jennifer, think creatively about what embedded in the school day means, right? So the theory of action behind ELOP, or the expanded learning program, is that we are expanding the learning day for our students and by thereby like also closing the opportunity gap. And so one of the things that two things I guess that we heard from our teachers is, hey, there's a lot on my plate. Like kids are coming in with really high needs, but a really wide spectrum, and I'm not able to individualize and differentiate at the level that I would like to. So I need additional support. But also don't pull them out of my class, right? Like when I'm doing the core instruction, it's really important that they're there. And let's not pull them out of PE or music, right? Like these are other things that we know our kids need to thrive, to even have the math and the ELA like solidify in their brains. They need that exposure to all the different elements, all the different subjects. So the expanded learning opportunity, the program that we have after school, is targeting students that we know need the additional support. And so it was another place that we said, we've got the kids here. So how are we really making use of the time? And tutoring doesn't need to be hours and hours long. It needs to be part of something that's happening after school. They still also need that time to run, play games, have free time to just read. So we were looking for an after-school partner that was also open to us working with other partners. And we were looking for a tutoring partner that was open to working within our after-school programming. And we needed an outside tutoring program just to have the tutoring happen at the scale at which we needed it. So our teachers also push in and provide support, but for this high impact tutoring, it's really focused on what we're doing with our partner. So I think if you flip to the next slide, related to that, like from our end, right, it was, we've got to get the kids there. That was the commitment that we were making to make sure that our students were showing up to tutoring, that we had systems in place to make sure that they went from the large after school programming to where the tutoring was happening, that we had a nice learning environment that was personalized, that they could concentrate on tutoring, and that we didn't just say, hey, these kids need help with math, but that we also did a lot of collaboration with our teachers. We created a TOSA, teacher on special assignment role, that focused on grouping students and that collaboration and communication with the teachers of like, what in math do the students really need help on? How do we group our students together effectively for the small group tutoring? Who gets along with whom? Who should we definitely keep separated? So that focus on not just the content areas, but the specific skills, the focus on who are we partnering, also building that trusting relationship between the tutor and the teacher. So they really got to know what's the training that the tutors engage in, what curriculum are they using, I think is really what's led to our success. And we were really focused on looking at outcomes for our students and disaggregating by their backgrounds and saying that, hey, as a district overall, when you look at our data in aggregate, we're doing pretty well. But when you disaggregate it, we're not. There's certain student groups for whom we need to do better, like meeting them where they're at. And we wanted our tutoring to be part of that solution, really saying, okay, we know that this group of students needs to make more than 1 year of growth, and how do we leverage the tutoring partner to do that? So what we're really excited to say is not just like, hey, this program is holistically working, but when you disaggregate the data, 70% of our English learner students made annual growth and in math and English, and then forget the exact percentage, but somewhere between 50 to 60% actually made stretch growth. So that's one of the other metrics that we're focused on in our outcomes-based contract, to say like, hey, we know kids they're going to make typical growth. They're going to make a year's worth of growth because we believe in our teachers. Our students here need more than a year's worth of growth. And so making that part of our contract. And similarly for our students with disabilities, they exceeded their annual typical growth in ELA by 60%. And so, through this partnership or through the OBC contract, we also meet regularly with our tutoring partner, and that has allowed us to further build trust between the different parties, between the parents, the students, our teachers, and our site administrators, because it takes all of us collectively to make sure our students are there and benefiting from the program. And then we've also troubleshooted at different times when our teachers grew skeptical of the tutoring partnership and saying, wait, where are my kids going? Who is this person? What do they know how to do? That we also built bridges there, and then have also really focused on that consistent having the consistent tutor. So when we felt like that wasn't happening, or that they weren't, this is virtual tutoring as well. And when the tutoring wasn't necessarily, we were wondering about the spaces the tutor was coming from, right? Like, were they also in an environment to meet the students where they're at? We have been able to troubleshoot all of that together. And I think, for us, I think this outcomes-based contract really moves the relationship from just thinking about what's a service I need and how are they providing it, to really creating a partnership of how are we meeting the specific needs of our community.
Right. Thank you so much. Truly inspiring, I think, to hear your experience and also see the data, right? And in both these cases we've seen so far, and I know this is true since I've seen Alicia's slides, who's on deck, just to see the results, right? And see the movement that kids are making, and also hear about the challenges that you experienced and how you overcome them. So thank you so much for sharing your experience, Preeti. We're now going to turn to our third and final district spotlight, Washington Unified, and we are joined by Alicia Sanborn. So Alicia, take it away.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here and to chat with you all today. And so I am a Director of Early Literacy and Assessments in Washington Unified. There are two Washington Unifieds in California. I don't know if you know that. But we are in Central California, and we do have farmland, rural, and urban areas. And a fact around our urban sites, the section was actually a few years ago the third largest, highest concentrated area of poverty in the United States. We are no longer, but we were at one point. So it's really important, I think, for us to kind of share a little bit of how our demographic is designed. Our enrollment has declined a little bit, but we're currently at 2,300. We have 90% of our students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged. 77% of our students are Hispanic, and 25% are English learners. And that number actually used to be far greater. But as a result of tutoring and some of our multilingual learner practices in our district, the number has decreased, which is a good thing. We have kids reclassifying. If you can go ahead and switch to the next slide for me. Thank you so much. So we actually decided to have high impact tutoring prior to COVID beginning. So our district was in differentiated assistance, and we still are. And we had my superintendent's vision of an early literacy initiative, of which I led as a kindergarten teacher. And I continue to lead that effort now in my role as a director in administration. But in 2020, we developed a partnership with Reading Corps. And Reading Corps has been able to serve our students. You can see in the infographic there, since our partnership, we've had 676 students in grades K-3. We actually do have preschoolers as well, but the data is not here. This is just K-3. They receive one-on-one interventions or 1 to 2 in tutoring 20 minutes every day until they reach those grade level targets and they can exit. Our Reading Corps tutoring is built into our multi-tiered systems of support in that second tier. So it's really important that our students are receiving these services, because we have on each of our sites built that into our system. So you can see the growth of what happened initially in our partnership, and then over the years of how many students we've been able to serve as a result. Our intervention teachers in our district are the teachers, sort of like a TOSA, that are able to support the tutors on site. So our tutoring is during the day, not after school. And they work closely with site administration, our internal coaches, and with Reading Corps, the tutoring entity, to be able to help support with the services that are happening as a district. But it's all in alignment to our early literacy vision of having all students read by 3rd grade. If you can go ahead and advance the next slide for me, just have a couple more visuals. So some outcomes, we do have a great attendance rate at this point now, with average 84% of our students reaching their attendance, and our tutoring fidelity. So that's a measure to know, are our tutors following the practices? That's not only monitored by our internal coaches, but it's also monitored by Reading Corps as well, with fidelity checks to make sure that they're implementing the model as designed. So we're very proud of our tutors and the work that they do to support our students. And we have 80% of our students exceeding their target growth rates, with 156 students receiving tutoring this year in this school year. And if you look at the number to the right, we have 183,000 minutes of tutoring completed. So when we think of our tutors not being built into our daily system at that tier 2, we would have no extra minutes of tutoring that's very focused upon their needs of where they're at, like Dr. Emmett said. You can go ahead and switch the slide for me, please. And just a quick little data snapshot. We know the work of what we've been doing with our certificated teachers around early literacy, but we know the high impact tutoring model and what we've been using with Reading Corps is a part of these data points as well. So in 1st and 2nd grade, we use that basic phonics skills test around foundational skills. Just some comparisons in 2022 to 2025. What is happening with student progress? We learned a little bit between 22 and 25 that we probably shouldn't give the same one to our 1st graders and our 2nd graders. So just figuring out. But you'll notice in the scores, even looking at kindergarten, 33% of students were on target, and now we have 82% of students on target in foundational skills. And our state assessment that we are all in the works right now, for CAS BLA, we've had our third graders grow with each year. And in the last 4 years, we've had about 20 points of growth around English language arts for our students at both of our school sites. So very proud of the efforts of what's happening in our tutoring. And if I just have one last slide so you can see our snapshot of what our MTSS model looks like with the tutors. And you'll see there, tier 2, this is how it looks for our district and our model of what we're doing around interventions and supports. So our tier 1, our teachers in the classroom settings, making sure that they're implementing that language and literacy block. But when we have our tier 2 systems, it's including our reading and our math course at our district. So I'm just very proud of the efforts of what we've been able to do in supporting student proficiency and student outcomes with high impact tutoring in our district.
Great. Well, the data are speaking for themselves, and really helpful to have all the context and the story behind those data from all of you. I want to just take 2 or 3 more minutes and ask you both, and Lupita, if she's able to come in and join us. Jennifer, I think my colleague will work on getting her on the screen. Just want to ask you each a follow-up question, and we'll be brief because we want to make sure we get to the next and final part of our webinar, which is sharing with those who joined us what the opportunities for learning more about how to design and implement programs like you all have will look like. So let me see. Let's start with Jennifer and Lupita. Now that you've joined us, welcome. Would love for you to just reflect on one challenge that you've experienced or a barrier that you faced in your effort to implement high impact tutoring, and just very briefly how you overcame it. I know we've shared a few already in the course of our presentations, but just think of one and let the group know how you overcame that in the next minute or so.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Lupita. I'm the interim director for the Expanded Learning Department here with Santa Ana Unified School District. I would have to say probably one of the biggest challenges was really getting students to consistently attend and stay engaged in the after school setting, because ours is ran after school specifically. And I think the hurdle of also having them buy in to the online format we developed was really difficult. And so we had some concerns from the community about the effectiveness of virtual learning compared to in-person instruction. And so to really address this, we focused on building strong relationships with students and families while collaborating closely with our site principals. We took time to educate principals and other key stakeholders on the importance of high impact tutoring, developing a shared language around its purpose, and emphasizing the evidence-based research and results supporting its effectiveness, whether it was delivered online or in person. Principals really truly played a critical role in advocating for the program and reinforcing its value within their communities. By positioning high impact tutoring as an extension of the school day and aligning it to our district goals, we successfully shifted the perception from an optional support to really an essential part of our student learning. And as we shared data and outcomes, as our cohorts and our pilots were being completed, families came to see the importance around our program and it going beyond enrichment and it being a key driver for student achievement in all areas, not just enrichment, as expanded learning was utilized in the past for. So I probably have to narrow it down to those key pieces.
That's fantastic. I love that shift from viewing it as optional to essential. What a paradigm shift, and clearly making a difference for kids. So thanks for sharing that, Lupita. Alicia, we'll close out this portion of the webinar with you. I know it's always hard to narrow down to one piece of advice, but given your experience, if you could give one piece of advice to other LEAs and other stakeholders assembled here who are considering investing in high impact tutoring, what would that piece of advice be?
Yeah, absolutely. it comes to the scheduling piece, and a few of my colleagues in this space today already mentioned it around like the partnerships of site administration, principals, working closely in building those schedules. So for us, we really weren't maximizing the amount of tutoring that we could because a tutor's caseload wasn't as full. But it was a lot of things that were already just a norm on the site. Oh, this is the normal time that I go to PE. This is the normal time that, we have art. And so trying to adjust and get input from teachers and adjust schedules where we could then build the best schedule. So there was a lot of work between site administration, our internal coaches, myself, and even our tutoring model with Reading Core. We were really working together to try to figure out the best solutions, to figure out during the day how we can get tutors' caseloads maximized to best serve as many kids as possible. So really just knowing it's going to take some time, but spend a lot of time in building that schedule to be able to get the most students served.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of our panelists and district leaders for joining us here today, really providing us a sense of what's possible, what is already happening, and hopefully being willing to continue to impart your wisdom and experience on us as we embark into the next phase of the work in California, which is a great segue into how we're going to spend the remainder of our time together today. So in the next 10 minutes or so, we are going to share a bit more about the 2 cohort-based learning opportunities available to all LEAs and stakeholder partners in California beginning this fall. I'm going to kick us off with a few details about the design sprint opportunity. This is something that will again kick off this fall, will be co-led by Results for America, which is the organization that I am from in partnership with the National Student Support Accelerator. You all met Kathy a little while ago. If you go to the next slide, I'm just going to briefly share a little bit of context about Results for America for those of you who are unfamiliar, and then a little bit more about the opportunity overall. So Results for America is a national nonprofit. We partner with government leaders all across the country to accelerate economic mobility through the use of data and evidence. We are big data and evidence geeks. We have the opportunity to work with federal partners, state and local leaders, including those in state education agencies and school districts across the country to help them invest public dollars in programs and policies that have a track record of working for young people and their communities. If you would go to the next slide. RFA has had the good fortune and opportunity to lead what we call design or solution sprints for more than 1,000 government leaders across 150 plus cities and counties all across the country, including 2 prior cohorts focused on high impact tutoring. The map up in front of you gives you a quick snapshot of the communities in which we've worked to help design and implement high impact tutoring programs. If you would go to the next slide, share a little bit more about this design sprint opportunity. These design sprints are fast-paced and comprehensive 8-week virtual learning series that really leave participants with a clear sense of what highly effective evidence-based high-impact tutoring looks like and a plan for implementing that program that reflects both the research-based design principles. Kathy touched on a lot of these earlier today, and each participating jurisdiction's local context. So we recognize that we have a body of research to help us know really what works and how to effectively design high-impact tutoring programs in alignment with that research. And we know that our local contexts, fluctuate greatly depending on lots of different factors. And so the sprint is a great opportunity to sort of bring the research base together with local context and resources and design a program based on both of those things that will make a difference for kids. So this summer, if you would, go ahead to the next slide. We will be recruiting up to 40 school districts, as was mentioned earlier, LEAs, along with partners, and we'll share more about eligibility and who should be a part of those teams in each LEA from across California to participate in an 8-week design sprint cohort We are aiming to launch this sometime in the late September, early October timeframe. Those details will be shared as part of the follow-up that we give everyone who's attending today and share widely. So the goal of this sprint is to prepare teams to design and secure funding. We know that's a big piece and a big barrier often, but to design and secure funding for a program that will be implemented in fall of 2026. So again, this design series is really meant to be practical, to meet you where you are, but also to put all participants on a track toward implementation of a high impact tutoring program in fall of 2026. We will share a lot more details about the sprint, including the specific dates, as I said, ideal program, team composition, and the application itself in the coming weeks. And as a final reminder, this is a no-cost opportunity for LEAs and their partners. And so we bring the resources, we bring the expertise, and you all bring your teams, your commitment, as well as the expertise around your local context. And we work together to really design and prepare to implement a program that will benefit your students in the ways that it benefited the districts that we heard from today. So if you would go ahead to the next slide, very quickly going to flash up the set of objectives that we will be working toward as part of this sprint. We will again share this as follow-up, but before we run out of time today, I want to make sure we have a few minutes to hear from my colleague, Dr. Brittany Miller, who's the Executive Director of the Center for Outcomes-Based Contracting at the Southern Education Foundation. We heard a few of the district presenters talk about their work with outcomes-based contracting, so would love to invite Brittany in to share the details about the outcomes-based contracting cohort opportunity that's a part of all of the technical assistance that we're excited to provide. So Brittany, without further ado, I will turn things over to you.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Sarah. Really nice to be here with all of you. So if you go to the next slide, then you'll see that the other opportunity that we're able to offer to districts across the state of California will come in the spring of 2026. So it'll start in January of 2026. It'll be a follow-on from the opportunity to learn, how do you implement high impact tutoring, and really focus in on, if you are planning on partnering with a provider, then how can you structure that partnership, as our district leaders in Santa Ana and Milpitas were speaking to be an outcomes-based contract, where the payment to the provider is contingent on meeting agreed upon student outcomes. 40% or more of the contract in this type of contracting is contingent on student outcomes being achieved. And so you saw some of the data that was the direct result of that, and how many of those contingent dollars were being paid by Milpitas and Santa Ana. So we work through this support with our districts by offering tailored workshops, a shared site visit to see the implementation and progress, using tools, templates. We have contract and RFP templates for use in order to develop this type of contracting in districts. And it also provides the strength and capacity for strategic procurement tied to academic success. And so that's the follow-on opportunity from the sprint. Some people were like, what's outcomes-based contracting? So I'll share a little tiny bit more about that. And then we have an survey for everybody to take if you're interested in these opportunities. So on the next slide, what you'll see is that the way that we define outcomes-based contracting, next slide. Thank you. Is listed here on the slide. And the piece that I would really point you to at the bottom, and our bottom line related to this work, is this really empowers districts to contract for clear student outcomes and compel that mutual accountability for achieving them with their partners. So you heard Preeti speak to this in terms of their responsibility on the attendance side, and then the tutoring provider's responsibility on having that consistent tutor available. And that's what's really driven these outcomes to come to fruition in these cases in California, even using the ELOP dollars, which has been a challenge for different districts to consider that. And I love that frame that our districts gave around expanding the school day means expanding access to high impact tutoring and really shifting that paradigm that Lupita spoke to. So on the next slide, what you'll see is some of the districts that have been supported with OBCs across the country, just to give you a snapshot of that. In addition to the districts you heard from today, we've been in partnership with Linwood Public Schools and with Fresno Public Schools. And so there certainly is precedent for this in the California context across your state. And then on the next slide, what you'll see is what this actually looks like. So there's a QR code here, and if you scan that QR code, it will take you to the survey, the interest survey for both of these opportunities to learn more. But essentially, we're starting today with this webinar, and then we have the high impact tutoring learning series, so that sprint series in the fall, to go soup to nuts through what is high impact tutoring, how do you implement it, how do you fund it. A lot of the questions that came in the chat around the ticky-tacky details of that are things that you really dive into during that sprint opportunity. And then from there, if you are interested in learning more about outcomes-based contracting, we do have a convening in Orlando, Florida that is no cost for districts to attend. And then in January, we will launch again that cohort specific to California for outcomes-based contracting agreements. In March, we have a site visit where you go and see that work in action. And then throughout the 2026 to 27 school year, we support with the implementation of your first year of an outcomes-based contract to really identify how do you make sure that that work that you did in developing the agreement with your provider really continues to stay focused on the thing that matters most, which is, of course, student learning. And so then at the end of that cohort, you'll be able to review the student data and finalize all of those outcomes payments that are contingent on students achieving results as a part of their high impact tutoring work. And then if you go to the last slide here, you'll see that the reason that we really wanted to bring this partnership to fruition in California is that it's a real opportunity to not just do this as a flash in the pan kind of event, but actually think through what does it look like to build the overall infrastructure for high impact tutoring in the state of California. And by doing that, and by working directly with our LEAs and all the partners that really care about this work across the state, we have a real opportunity to make this just the starting point. Right. And so to what Dr. Darling Hammond said at the beginning, this is not about a moment. This is about a movement and the opportunity to really shape the trajectory of what it looks like to make really good use of those available resources in order to really support student learning across multiple contexts, before school, after school, and all of the different elements of the work. And so with that, I am going to turn it back over to Rigel to close us out, and we'll certainly be in touch with additional information.
It's a great note to end on, Brittany. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today to present. Really appreciate you sharing your stories and to listen, and really appreciate all the engagement in the Q&A. We will be in touch with the answers to your questions, and of course with the rich information in this webinar. We're really excited about the momentum and opportunity to expand students' access to high impact tutoring across the state, and hope that these cohort-based learning opportunities meet you where you are. Sign up today and give us the survey. Thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate it.